Hey everyone, and welcome to Sasquatch Theory. Tonight's guest is John, and his story stretches from the towering Redwood forest of California all the way to the backwoods of Minnesota. John grew up around the outdoors. His father was a fish and game officer, and also an Apache Indian, so being in the wilderness was just a part of life. But over the years, John began experiencing things in the forest that didn't fit into the normal world of hunting and wildlife. His encounters began in the Santa Cruz Mountains and around the Monterey Bay area. I don't want to spoil this podcast, but if you're into Bigfoot encounters and research tactics, this is certainly the episode for you. If you have a Bigfoot encounter that you would like to share with me here on Sasquatch Theory, feel free to reach out sometime at sasquatchtheory@outlook.com. If you would like to join the membership, you can now do so, and your support is greatly appreciated. With all that being said, let's dive into John's Bigfoot encounters from the state of California and Minnesota. All right, John, welcome to Sasquatch Theory. How are you doing today?
Great. How are you doing, Miguel?
I'm doing excellent. Thank you very much for asking. John, if you would, tell me a little bit about yourself and your Bigfoot experiences from the very beginning, please.
Well, yeah, sure. I grew up in the Monterey Bay area, which would be Watsonville, California. There's Monterey to the south and Santa Cruz to the north of us. So Santa Cruz Mountains has always had some great activity, Bigfoot, paranormal, excuse me, and other just oddities. It's a unique place to grow up. Again, I was born in 65. I grew up around that area. My dad was an avid fisherman. We'd hike miles down in the Monterey Bay area, Carmel, exclusively, just to get down to a fishing hole that he knew to catch some big old lingcod cap zone. So he was also a fish and game commissioner for 18 years. So that got me out in the woods as a kid. He loved to fish, and we did a little light hunting. In some of the mountains, we knew a lot of people around the area that had ranches. My dad had managed a bunch of apple orchards as a kid in spare time. So we were always outdoorsy type people. In the 80s, when I got my license, I would really venture out, in the early 80s, that is. Always get out in the woods and just cruise around, grab whoever I could around town and go out and listen for noises. I grew up around listening to, in the 70s, there was a few reports, including I had a paranormal event happen as a kid when I was 6 years old. I seen an apparition in the doorway. So, and my mom was into all the Fate magazines. So basically I grew up around that. Give a little background on my dad. He was Apache Indian from Santa Fe, New Mexico, served in Iwo Jima. A very outdoors type person. My mom, Native American background, but we grew up in the woods. We grew up out in the woods a lot. So getting back to my experiences, I always try to research anything I could back in the 70s as a child and a young teenager as I grew up. When I got my license, I'd venture out. In 82, I've always heard sounds out there that were strange. But as I grew into this lore, I remember being up in the mountain one night with a girlfriend and doing what teenagers do, 17 years old in 83. And we had parked there for several hours talking and doing what teenagers do again. And I remember we just had a 63 Impala and I just had the radio going for a couple hours sitting on the side of the road. Yeah, excuse me, my voice is a little hoarse. And anyway, I remember the whole Impala started shaking up and down. Not sure if it was Bigfoot related, not sure if it was paranormal related. I don't know what it was, but the car was bouncing up and down pretty bad, and they got long trunks. I'm not sure what did that, but it spooked us. And when it stopped, I put the parking lights on, see if I can see behind me. I didn't see anything, so I started the car, which was slow to turn on. It sounds like a horror flick. And I did get out after I started the car and turned the headlights and peek. I didn't go out very far from the door. And I'm not the type of person to get scared very easily. it stood out, looked around, had an eerie feeling, and never did see anything, but we proceeded to get out of there and took off down the hill. And these are the Santa Cruz Mountains around the Mount Madonna area. And that's the Santa Cruz Mountains, which is a vast mountain range with a lot of activity over the years. Fast forward, through the 80s, I would hike around that area, drive around a lot. I mean, 2 or 3 times a week, I'd be up in the mountains. But fast forward to, and I'm going to concentrate in this area. I've been around, Shasta and up in Northern California, but it would take me all day to tell you the stories. So I'll concentrate where I had the most activity because I was in that area, born and raised there most of my life, so I had access to it. Anyway, fast forward to the 90s, early 90s, I went for a hike. We were camping out in Mount Madonna Park, and I was going through a divorce and had my kids with me that weekend and another couple, and my cousin, and we camped out and we went for a hike. And I think it was a good 8-mile hike all the way down. We did not make it back up. We thought we would, but halfway down, and this is a very vast area, not populated. We noticed a big structure that was at least 12 foot tall, teepee type structure. I've never seen one. I have seen a lot now in my endeavors, but I didn't know what it was. It was in a little clearing by a field in the Redwoods, kind of up towards the line of the Redwoods there. And we were going to go investigate. We had a dog with us, but he was kind of whimpering when we started walking across the field. So we just didn't think nothing of that at the time, but just thought, no, we'll just let it be. I don't know what that is. It's strange. So we ventured all the way down the hill and eventually had an old cell phone back in the day. We got service to my lady and they came down and picked us up. So that night we were camping. It was probably, everybody turned in about midnight. I'm always the last one to go to bed. I guess, hence that's why they call us the Midnight Squatchers. I'm a late night person. So is my lady. But I was sitting around the campsite, just listening to the forest, having a cold beer and fire crackling. And I heard a howl come down about a half hour later, about 12:30 at night, from the ravine down there. I mean, this is a mountainous area. And it was like the Ohio howl. It just had that long, dragged out howl. And I'd estimated, guesstimation about a mile away. Kind of spooked me a little bit. So every noise after that, I turned in about 1:30, but I stayed up for about an hour, and I never heard it again. Every noise after that, any raccoon, any little creature, it kind of got me on edge a little bit that night. So that was the first vocalization I ever heard. And it was, I wish I had a recorder at the time. It was a great vocalization. I mean, it was just one of the best I've ever heard. Fast forward again, that's 92. In 97, we would go up and hang out. I was remarried again, just gonna get remarried again to my second wife. And we had been out for a cruise and parked along the side of one. There's 3 pull-offs going up from my hometown where you can overlook and see the ocean because we grew up right on the coast. And we had pulled off about 1 a.m. after cruising around, just enjoying the view. And we're going to pop a cold drink and get out to sit on the hood. We weren't there less than 5 minutes, and a dirt clod had smacked the window of the car we had. And it was a huge dirt clod, I found out later. And it spooked us, just a big boom. And we had, some soft, easy, what you call yacht rock music on at the time. And it just got there relaxed. And this just boom, hit the window and looked at her and I looked out and I go, what the heck? And it was a bright moonlit night. So I could see clearly there was woods on top, redwoods and bushes down below. And we were overlooking the ocean, about 800 feet up. And I was spooked, so I immediately got off, turned on the radio, and looked around. And up above the hill, about 50 foot up, there's a little meadow, and it goes all the way up. I mean, it's just a mountainous area. There was some pine tree or a tree there that was moving, like something was standing there, and rocks from the edge there were crinkling, coming down and hitting the road a little bit. So to me, I thought something had been up there watching us. Didn't see nothing, but the bush was kind of wiggling like something was there, swaying. What caught me was if something threw a rock from up above us, it would have to do a U-turn and hit the window. So that didn't make any sense. But there was something moving up there. Then I had this eerie feeling again. You get that creepy feeling. All of us get that, like something's watching you. And it was towards the direction on the driver's side where this rock had hit, dirt clod. And I looked and I couldn't see nothing, but I had that eerie feeling like something was watching us. So she had asked me, "What, do you see anything?" I said, "No." So I picked up the dirt cloud. I found a couple pieces of a dirt cloud that broke in 3 pieces. It was pretty big. It was about the size of a softball. And I had told her, I go, "I don't know, but something threw the rock." And there's still a dirt mark, kind of like a bird hits the window, where you could see the dirt impression still stuck on the window. So we sat there maybe 5 more minutes. She wanted to leave, and I didn't. I was all for it. I said, "Yeah, we better venture on." So we had proceeded to, go back home. We lived down the hill, in our town there. So again, didn't think nothing of it. Just put in back my mind. Well, I'll just let this go. I don't know what it was. It's nothing definite, but I'm into that Bigfoot lore. I don't want to think that everything we hear is Bigfoot related. So we just let that go and put it back in our mind. Months later in October, I had picked up a friend and we went up, I told my lady I'm going to go up for a ride, and we had spent about 3 hours on the back, up around Mount Madonna, top of the hill, Loma Prieta. It's about 5,500 feet up to the top there. You can get almost up to the top where the antenna is. And we're coming back down to the Gilroy side. And Daniel Perez from Bigfoot Times wrote about it in the April version of Bigfoot Times. We had talked extensively on the phone before that. But anyway, my friend of mine, George, we were coming down the backside. It's a little dirt road. Once you go down this dirt road, I can send you some pictures later on of the road there. Yeah, it's all Mount Madonna Road. You really can't turn around. You just got to proceed all the way down. And if another car is coming, it just you'd have to back up to you and get a little room to get through there. So anyway, we were coming down we were just about 3/4 down, and it was another moonlit night, which is strange because this is the second time that on a bright moonlit night that I had an incident. But we had a few beers up there, on the road. I had my own business called John's Auto Glass. I worked in glass trade most of my life, so that was my forte. So we were coming down the road, and we had to relieve ourselves. So we got off, and I parked my little Toyota pickup, and we, got off about maybe 5-10 feet from that, and just sitting there, and it was a little clearing there where a creek had came down. So the redwoods are sparse in that area, so you get a little moonlight trickling down. And I started relieving myself, and all of a sudden, my nickname's JD, and my friend George started stuttering, going, and he couldn't say my name. I looked at him, and I thought, well, what is wrong with you? Something's wrong with you? I mean, and he's pointing, so I look up, and I never thought I'd see something like that. I've seen the most massive, hairy, backlit creature. You couldn't see the face. What got me, and I always say this on my podcast and in that article, Bigfoot Times, was the shoulders. The shoulders were just wide. I mean, every bit of 4 foot wide. I estimated, because I see from the thighs up, I guesstimated him to be at least 9 foot tall. And it was just this figure in front of us, about 100 feet away up the hill in the moonlight, just standing there by a tree. You can see later on when I went back in the daytime, there was a fern, so I could only see it from so far up, from the thighs up. But long, dangling arms. There was really no head, just a little bump. So it looked all shoulders with the head kind of like it just sat right on the shoulders. The shoulders what got me, and I never thought I'd see anything like that in my life. I never thought I'd run into one of these creatures. It spooked me. This creature, as I was looking up at it, and I had a long neck beer bottle, so we pulled out to have one in my hand. It was my third one of the night, so I wasn't drunk or anything. I had it in my hand. I was looking up in awe and shock of what I'm seeing. And this creature started grunt, like a deep guttural grunt, and sway side to side. And you can see this in the moonlight. And I knew from watching a lot of the animal movies in the 70s, Wild Kingdom back in the day, I don't know if you've heard of them because I'm, like I said, I'll be 61 this year. It's probably not a good sign if something is swaying, especially an ape-like looking creature. I yelled at it for some reason and said, "Hey," as loud as I could, and threw this bottle up at it. Don't ask me why I did it. It was just something that came to me like, "Hey, I'm gonna scare it," or I don't know what came over me. I just threw it up at it, and it had stopped swaying. This all happened in 15 to 20 seconds. And when it stopped swaying, I heard brush being crunched, or like underbrush. So I didn't see it moving toward me, but I figured this thing might be coming at me or moving or doing something. I turned to go to the truck, which is about 10 foot away. George was already gone. I was unaware of that. I went in the car, the truck, started this truck, and proceeded down the hill. And I was spooked. I was scared. I never thought I'd see anything like that in my entire life. What got me still was the shoulders. And I say this because my dad he knew people, and we'd bring wrestlers to our town, and we'd have different wrestlers around the area, even Salinas. And I met Andre the Giant. We'd go to a lot of wrestling matches. My dad knew him personally, The Rock's grandfather, Chief Peter Maivia. So I had a good judgment of size. And I still remember Andre putting his hand around me when I was 8 years old, looking at me like little Montoya. And, I just was in awe. But this creature made Andre look like a midget. It was just huge. Just the girth of it. We getting back to the story, the encounter, we started proceeding down the hill, didn't say too much to each other. And as we got down the hill, my friend realized that he had swallowed himself a little bit because he just ran in the car. And he asked me, he goes, "Well, what the heck is that?" And it wasn't in that phrase either. And I told him, I guess that's just what I was looking for, what I've been wanting to see. And I'm surprised what I seen. I don't want to see it again. It was too close for comfort. But the size of it, if you ever see, the size of it is just amazing. These creatures are massive, at least the one I've seen. I know they come in different shapes and varieties around the States, but what we've seen up in the Redwoods at night, it just, I can't believe that anything that large could be on this planet. So that was the encounter from 97. A year later, we were up in 98, and we were cruising around the area. And to this day, I got to go back to this encounter. I've been up there during the day. I've been out there several times. I can go anywhere. We go out squatching a lot around the area. We have access to private property down in southern Minnesota, driftless area. Go out to Wisconsin Bigfoot group. Over the years, love that. Been around the Ozarks. I know you're from that area. I'm not afraid of anything, but that road, it's desolate, it's dark, it's eerie. And if I can take you there and have you go down there, you would get the vibe. I just can't take myself to this day to go down that road at night. Been down there during the daytime. Once you go down that road there in my hometown, there's really no turning back. You kind of got to go all the way down. It's very hard to turn around. So that's that encounter. Getting back to the 98, fast forwarding again, we were out driving around. I had my kids at the time. They were younger, a little older now, playing in the back of my camper shell. And we had been up and running around the mountains again in that area. So we were coming down. This was more of a overcast night, cloudy, late September. It was kind of drizzly. We came down, and you get a lot of fog on that side. It was just one of them overcast days, and we were coming down about 10:30 at night from the mountain on the side of my town, to be the west side, going towards the beach, coming down. And we were almost down to the bottom, and we went to cross this little corner, and there's a little bridge coming up there with a little culvert. And there's a little creek that runs about 30 foot down, and then go straight up the mountain from there, and then mountain to the right of us. As we were cruising around a corner, my boy in the back said, "Dad, look." And when I looked up, I just caught a glimpse. Didn't look nothing like we seen before, but I caught a glimpse of an upright creature, dark. It had, the fur on it. You can see it in the headlights real quick. When I looked, it was already across the middle divide, and these roads are very narrow. I mean, it looks like a one-lane road with a line going down the middle. So that's, I don't even know how they make these roads that small, but it's been that way in my hometown for years. Never got widened because of the different, terrain, and you get mudslides here and there. This creature, when I looked, was just on the middle of the divider and then hopped over the edge. And that's about all I've seen of it, maybe a second and a half at the most. I immediately told my lady to stop, my wife at the time. I got off the truck and I went around there and I wanted to see what this thing was. I was a little, it was unnerving, but I still wanted to see this. Didn't have a flashlight with me. And I stopped at the edge of the road. And I couldn't see nothing. It was just black. I mean, it was just too dark. And I listened, didn't hear nothing moving, but I had that feeling of being watched, that same feeling I had when had the rock hit. And it was very strong this time, really strong. What got me that night, when I was sitting there, I didn't sit there too long, maybe 20 seconds at the most, maybe 30 if you push it, was this buzzing. I had a buzzing in my head, it wasn't a ringing, it was kind of just like a buzzing, funny, disoriented. I've heard of infrasound. I don't know if that was it, but I felt like something was hitting me in the whole body. I felt disoriented. I tried to look. I couldn't see nothing, so I proceeded back to the truck. And did you see anything? I said, no, it's too dark. So we left out of there. My boys were screaming, "Dad, get in here!" And they were freaking out. My oldest boy said he never seen nothing. He had his back turned, so he didn't see. My youngest boy was facing the cab through the little sliding glass window, so he's the one that noticed it first. He had been looking in the front, looking out towards where we were going. But when I went back there the next day, I did find an impression, and it looked like whatever had stepped, and it was pretty wide, had the mid-tarsal break. It looked like it had pushed off between the road, the dirt, and the grass there on the edge, and there was an indentation, and then there was bushes about 15 foot down. It looked like something past that. They were still there. Then it looked like something had went down and disturbed all the bushes and the grass going down towards the creek. So it did look like something large had launched itself off, and then when it landed, it had disrupted the bushes going down to the creek. And again, that was 97. Since then, I've never seen anything. I've many times I've thought I've been in the presence of them. We do research in southern Minnesota, which we're going to head out here shortly. It's private acreage. There's a lot of different farms in that area, owned by cousins and family, probably totaling about 480 acres. And if you ever look up the Driftless area, it's a unique area with a lot of wildlife. I'm always putting trail cam pictures on, but I've taken over 15 reports of these creatures. The farmers don't like to go down there in that area where we go. I do. I go down there 3, 4 in the morning. I'll stay out there most of the night. And I remember one night when I was out there, I had something, I believe, follow me around the ravine where we camp out. So this is again in Spring Valley, Minnesota, but we go up to La Crosse. I've got cams up there. I've got friends, Dan Nadrello, great researcher and good buddy of ours. We're going to be going up in May, in June, up to by the Kettle Moraine Forest in Wisconsin. But never, ever have I seen anything other than California. That's where the sightings, where I had the Class A, and a lot of vocals, over the years. Spring Valley, where we research, that's our main research here. It's an hour from our hometown, our house here, where I reside now. Spring Valley it's just multiple sites. They're on the Bigfoot mapping project, on the BFRO. There's a couple reports. A person had seen one of these creatures, and I can go on to that story. This is, again, Spring Valley, Minnesota, southern Minnesota, Driftless area. What got me interested in that area was a friend of mine named Adam. He had told me a story of about a mile away of a friend that his mom has a ranch there and his brothers. Across the way, about a mile, had an incident with one of these creatures where he had a big brush fire about the size of, a vehicle. On a farm where you're burning up brush. And he was sitting out there with his son, and he was having a cold beer and, had his gun beside there, and they were just sitting around the campfire. And he heard some crashing in the brush. And he wasn't sure what was going on. He thought it just something making a fuss, kind of some growls, and he thought, man, once in a while we get a bear come through. So at first he thought maybe deer, then we heard the growls, thought maybe to be a bear. So he had his gun there. He always does when he's on the property. He has 100 acres or 100 acres out in that area. And he was, wondering what it was. And then he heard some screams, which really was unnerving. I guess after a little bit, maybe a minute, this thing had came out of the wood line. And he said it was about like my 8.5 to 9 foot tall. I haven't talked to the guy yet. And he's seen a hairy bipedal creature looking at him and his son, and he freaked out. And you can see it with the big brush fire, and it just screamed at him. He don't know what it wanted or why it was screaming at him, but he grabbed his son. He didn't even pick up his gun. He said, from what I heard, this is a secondhand story from my friend, which I believe to be true. He doesn't, tell any lies or why would he make this up? But he said the guy, I know his name's Steve. He said the gun probably wouldn't do anything to this creature, but he proceeded to grab his son, pick him up, and run in the house. And he said this thing was thrashing around and screaming and just making a bunch of noise. Before that happened, I think it picked up a branch, if I remember right, or a log, and threw it at him, but not hitting him. But he proceeded to go into the house and just stayed in there most of the night. When he came out the next day, and he had owned this property 10 years. I forgot to mention that. Never had he hunted that, never seen anything, never heard anything, never had anything of this nature happen. When he went back out there, he noticed 17 and a half footprints, 17 and a half inch footprints all around the area and going into the forest. And I believe he has pictures of them, which I still want to see. And he's very secluded. Don't like to talk to nobody about it. Really not a conversational person, kind of to himself. So it might be hard to get that story from him. But he's the individual that told me this, my friend, had told me that he had seen the pictures and they were pretty deep in the ground and they were massive. So that's what piqued our interest in this area. And over the last 5 years, as I started researching the area, I noticed that there wasn't just one or two. I started receiving more reports. Even after I did a podcast with Bigfoot Society with friend Jeremiah, I got an email from a guy that said that his mom and dad had an incident down there in the Spring Valley area at Masonic Park, where they were camping there back in the 80s, and a couple of these creatures, they noticed something moving on top of this bluff, which is about 100 feet up or more, to rock face. And then they had proceeded to come down around the rock face down by their campsite when they were there. And they were screaming. They had heard screams and these dark figures moving around. Their dog ran the truck. So they got spooked and hopped in the truck and went to leave out of there. And two of these creatures went across the dirt road in the headlights. So they actually spotted these creatures, which was amazing. So we've got cameras out in that area, as well as our research area that we took 3 months to clean out. They give us permission to clean out a 100-foot area so we can do our research down there. We're not allowed to bring a lot of people out, but we're allowed to bring a couple at a time if we want. But it's a very interesting place with a lot of reports, including the one, I got to get a drink of water, excuse me. Including the few that we took. One of the cousins of the landowner where we have permission to research, he said that they were selling off 10-acre plots back in the day. I think it was the 90s. And there's a dam down there. And he said on one of the pictures, he's going to try to find them because his dad had passed away and they're put up an attic. But when they're taking pictures of lots, he said by the dam on one of these pictures, he noticed a black figure. It was crouched, so they thought it was a bear. In the second picture, it looks like it's standing up, erect, and it doesn't look like a bear. He said it looks like a giant, hairy ape of some type. And he estimated it to be almost 10 foot tall. But this area has a lot of reports. There's even a hellhound report that Chad Lewis, our friend, wrote about in the Forestville State Park, which is about 8 miles from our research area, very close. So there's just so many reports there that we just got to continue investigating that area. Any questions for me at all, Miguel?
Yeah, absolutely. When you heard that vocalization in California,
Mhm.
what do you think it meant?
It was just like the Ohio howl. So if you've heard the Ohio howl, it's a long, dragged out kind of howl. So it didn't sound like it was aggression. If I go back now that the more I've known over the years, I think it was trying to either a mating call or a call to another person. I mean, another creature that might have been in the area, because it didn't sound like it was close. It sounded like it was down in the valley, so I'd estimate a mile away at least. So I think it was trying to call out maybe to another individual.
Yeah. So you think it's possibly like a locator call?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Now, getting back to that area, which the California area, me and my lady in 2018 went out there to the area and we're looking around. I forgot to mention this because I got so many stories, they all intertwine at times. And we went to research that area. We're going to take a walk out in the Redwoods. I had a little Honda I borrowed off of my cousin. And we parked the car. We're proceeding down the meadow. And we got about a half mile down in there. We're going to go to a little hole in the Redwoods in the forest there. And we started hearing knocking. And it was a series of 5 knocks. And it sounded like somebody was building a house. I've heard knocks before. I know you've been researching. I'm sure you've heard them. But it was a series of 5 knocks. And I thought, that's strange. So we stopped in the meadow before we got to the forest area and just listened. And I tried to record it. I had an older phone back then. You can vaguely hear it. I got to enhance that somehow if I can find audio. But we sat there and listened. And after about maybe 45 seconds, we heard knocks, the same series, 5 patterns coming to the left of us, in the brush on the other side. And it's a pretty big football size meadow. So I told her, that is weird. There's no houses out here. This is Mount Madonna Park. It's on the outskirts. There's few buildings way down, 8-10 miles away, but there's nothing in this vicinity. So not unless there's forest rangers down there, which we were the only ones in the park because we had Cruz Park and there was one camper there. And I thought, that's odd. So we proceeded to listen. And then the knocks came again in front of us from the same area. So I told her, I think we're just going to go back and get up by the car and we can, just listen. So we proceeded to go back towards the car. As we did, we heard knocks now to the right of us. So now we're getting surrounded by knocks on each side. And they were the same series of 5, which didn't make any sense. What that meant, I still don't know. Because if you notice, us, humans, we'll do a series of 3 knocks. It's why we do that. I don't know. It's if you ever look, people when they do wood knocks, so 1, 2, 3. This was a series of 5, which doesn't really mean anything, but it was different. So we did go back in the car, and after we sat there, we didn't hear anything else after a while. Sat there for about 20 minutes, and then we proceeded around the park. Which was strange is we were going to go back the same way we came. There was a tree pushed over across the road, and a pretty sizable tree, talking about 35, 40 feet. And I got pictures of that, and I said, that's weird. That wasn't here when we went through. I mean, it doesn't look too dry, like it just fell over, but anything's possible. I didn't know what to think of that, but we got out to look at it. We sat there for maybe a minute or two, and then all of a sudden, we started getting pebbled with rocks, which is very weird. And it was 2:30 in the afternoon. I can look around. I've been in this area all my life. And we were just visiting from Minnesota now because we reside here. I moved here in 2000. And I told April, I go, this don't make any sense. I can look up there and I don't see anything. So didn't get pebbled anymore. So we started walking back. And we had a Kia, which I'm not fond on them. That was the only round car they had. So, and I always made jokes about that. So we started going back to the Kia and we started getting pebbled again with little bigger rocks. Again, we stopped, looked around, tried to get a visual on what's going on. So I yelled, hey, knock it off. That maybe it's the camper, the only one that we've seen there. Didn't hear nothing. So we started walking. We almost got back to the car. We got pebbled again. So I said, well, they want to keep throwing pebbles at us, let them. So we got in the vehicle, and I told her I know another way out. So luckily there was another road out so we can get out of there. But don't know what that meant. Don't know if that had anything to do with the Bigfoot lore or if it was one of these creatures, but it was odd. Very odd.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like the 5 knocks could have meant that there were people in the area, because I've heard the same thing, and I feel like they're warning each other. What are your thoughts about that?
Very possible. I take that very. I think there's a very good possibility because, excuse me, because as humans, we usually do the 3 knocks, so it's a good possibility that's what that knocks meant. And as we venture into this lore and go out and do our research, maybe there'll be a pattern, that evolves out of that, that we can say, hey, this is what this means. I met Scott Nelson, and I don't know if you ever heard him break down. He's from Missouri, break down the Ohio calls, and I don't know Ohio calls, the Sierra Nevada, calls that Ron Moorhead had, and it's interesting when I've never heard him. We were at the Minnesota Bigfoot conference. I never heard him slow down, and when you slow them down, it's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw him at the conference in Illinois with Ron Moorhead, and it was really cool to hear his take and the way he analyzed the audio on the audio software and slowed it down. And you could almost hear a distinct language, and there's a lot going on there.
Yes, exactly. Like I said, I had the privilege to meet him, and we actually hung out afterwards too. Abe Del Rio, who puts on the Minnesota Bigfoot Conference, I go there every year. He's a good friend of mine. We go out and do a little foraging once in a while, or grab a taco. I tease him. I call him Abe Del Taco instead of Del Rio. But yeah, he's a good friend of mine. I got Scott's number. I'm hoping to be up in the Missouri area sometime in the future. We've been to the Ozarks and ventured around a little bit during the daytime, never at night. So hopefully, we can get out in that area and do some research too, as well. We're going to be out, in Wisconsin twice this year if everything goes right. I mean, things come up, as usual for any of us. If something might come up where we just can't make it, but our plans to make it up there twice this year. The Kettle Moraine was very interesting the first time, and we plan to do that again. I remember the last time I was there, they had another. We break up in teams. One of the teams have got a 10-inch print, which looked pretty good. I was out with another person. I think he takes out people for the BFRO, Tom Nordstrom. But anyway, I remember seeing it looked to me like a little. To me, I thought it was an eyeball, like a white glow, and then it kind of disappeared, and then it would come back on, like bright again, I don't know. It was about 5 foot up, I guesstimate. There was nobody out there. This is in the middle of nowhere, but what it was, I don't know. And then it moved a little bit and disappeared. But it just was one. It wasn't 2 eyes. It was strange. So what it was, I don't know. But I'd want to get back out there and investigate. On the Springdale area, though, Miguel, we've been out there with a ranger. We've been out there at night. My lady and a friend were out there one night, and I played back some video. We actually caught some reddish amber eyes in 2 different locations at night. But we were out driving around Howard Park, and we'd sit for about 20 minutes and get the FLIR out and all of our gadgets. As we came around a T, and there's a lot of creeks going around there, and they branch off, and farmers' fields and woods. But we were out there. It had to be about 2:30 in the morning, and we had parked and didn't notice these eyes. So I played back. A lot of times you don't notice a lot of this. So you play back the video, you don't notice anything. And he's, oh, look what's in there. But as we parked, I got up, and I was looking towards the creek with my FLIR, and all of a sudden, my friend Wade goes, look, John, look. And I turned around, and my lady April was looking toward the field. I go, what? He goes, something dark just stood up and ran across the field. And I go, you're kidding me. He goes, no. And we weren't trying to be quiet. It was exciting, So here I turn around my FLIR, and I looked around. I didn't see anything. I go, April. He goes, yeah, I seen it too. what it looked like. And they swore it had pointed ears. They said it looked like it had pointed ears. It wasn't very tall. It just looked like it had pointed ears. It was dark. They didn't really see it, clearly, but it looked upright like a figure running across like a human across the field. Again, this is private property. There's nobody out there. If they would, we have, they'd get shot. We're packing all the time. I don't carry, but my friends do. I never carry. Some people tell me I should. I agree. I should have a sidearm, but I just got bear spray and my gadgets. I never carry any weapon with me. Either does April. But he does. And, he used to be a security guard, so he has permit to carry. And he didn't even bring that out. He has it in the vehicle, in the little Ranger. But I turned around and I didn't get a visual on it. But he's seen it. My lady's seen it. What it was, it zoomed across that field with lightning speed. And it was about 6.5 feet tall. Not very wide, nothing like what I've seen in California. They said it was more slender, but again, it was just a dark figure. So hard to really, define anything in it. It was just, any outline. It was just a dark figure, but it stood up and ran on two legs. That much they could see. Again, they found coyotes torn up there. I've got video of that. I talk about it. Excuse me. They've got coyotes that they found torn to pieces out there in a pile, two of them. There's a lot of coyotes, recently in the last 3 years, got a group of bobcats. I think it's a male and two females out there, just a lot of wildlife. So it would be an area where a big creature could sustain itself and come in and out of and have resources. So I love that area, but that was one visual they had. I've never had anything. One night I went down there. Usually after we get done squatching for the weekend, we'll take one night out and then sit around the fire after we get back. And usually it's about midnight, and we'll indulge in a few drinks and hang out till the wee hours of the night. I remember one night, it was about 3 a.m. I had a little liquid courage in me. I thought, I'm going to go down and get that last camera I missed by the creek. It's about a quarter mile down, and they're like, my lady was totally against it. You don't need to go down there, and I'm going to just take a beer and go down there and get it. So I went down there by myself, probably about 3 a.m. because I came back up at 4. And I was trying to get this stubborn camera that I tied in knots with the flashlight holding my mouth, trying to get it undone. It was been down there for a year, so it was kind of full of dust. And, didn't want the straps, didn't want to untie right. And I was right by the creek, and it's very eerie down there, too. And it's just a little corridor going all the way down to the creek, and there's a ravine on the left side of you going down that gets deep. And then there's a hill on each side. And I started untying this camera, and I heard something on the top of the hill there by the creek where the rock face is, and I thought, a lot of limestone rock. That's probably just a deer. So I started tying this camera, and I hear something moving again. So I started getting a little spooked, so I'm trying to get this camera off. Finally, I got loose, and I just started snapping pictures up there and pictures. And I thought, okay, well, maybe something will show up. And had my night flash on my phone I had. So I started to walk back up the hill, and I do have chronic lung issues, so uphill is horrible for me. So I started walking up, and I heard something across the ravine following me, and it sounded like 2 feet, not a deer or, there's no bears. It sounded like somebody was flanking me and walking on 2 feet. And when I'd stop, it would stop. So I really started getting spooked at that point because I'm by myself. So I started walking back up, and I'd stop on purpose, and then it would stop. But I could hear it follow me up across the ravine, and you hear the bushes snap. And when I go, you can hear it cracking and going through the bush. So I started getting spooked and trying to go up, and I had to stop a couple times because I got chronic asthma and bronchitis since I was born, and it was kicking in pretty heavy. And took my inhaler, and I was getting really spooked at this point. It did that for a good 200 feet before I didn't hear it no more. So I got back up to the campsite thinking that maybe it might have been, it was only my lady and my friend Adam. His mom owns the farm there, and his brothers, that own the farms around there. And I got up there, and they were sitting there. They go, "You're lucky you made it back, because if you weren't, we were about ready to go down." And he's got one prosthetic leg. Adam does, my friend. He's only got one leg, so it's hard for him to get all the way down there and up sometimes. But my lady was going to go down there and look for me, and I made it back, and I told them, I thought you guys were down there because something was following me. And, well, I told you not to go down there. And my friend's like, oh, really? Well, how much did you have to do? He's joking with me. And I go, no, I'm serious. Something was following me. And I don't know what it was, but on some of the pictures, it does look like there's a dark figure. Can't say it is or isn't, but it does look like there's something up in the tree line looking down. And if it is, it had to be up about 12 feet in a tree holding on between two limbs. So I'm not sure if I captured something or not, but again, it's in my archives because it's a possibility. But I'm not sure. But I'll tell you, I will never, ever, I was warned not to go down there by myself because they have heard stuff, seen stuff. I've heard some screams out there. And there's a bobcat around there. It sounds like a lady screaming. Not sure if it's anything or not, but I don't think it's a bobcat. I had a howl that was really close to our campsite one night. It sounds like a wolf or a giant coyote. It was really loud, but it kind of it plateaus. So it's like a siren. So either it's a wolf that might have been venturing through, or something mimicking a wolf, or something altogether, something different. But it spooked us, and it was strange that when we caught that howl is for 2 weeks we didn't have no movement in the forest. It was quiet. And the second week we went out there to camp because we go out on the weekends. He has a dog. It's a rescue dog. It's blind in one eye. It's just like one of them dogs. Like if you ever watch Lassie. And that night we got there, and this dog, about 8 at night, it just was staring at it sat right by the drive going down to the creek and where our campsite is. And it was just sitting there staring at the forest. And I go, what's wrong with your dog? And he didn't move for about 5 minutes. He goes, probably a coon or something. He's probably fixated on something. So next thing you know, the dog just gets up and walks back up to the farmhouse. And I thought, which is a little bit of ways. And I thought, He goes, he's being goofy. So we didn't think nothing of it. That night, by the ravine, I always put my tent by the ravine because I like to be right where the action is if I can. And again, it took us three and a half months to clear out this area. There's nothing but sticker bushes and trees, and it's like a half moon section where you can put 4 tents, and we got a little fire ring in the middle. Took a while, but we had a growl about 8:30 after the dog left, right behind my tent, and it was a deep growl. Don't know what it was. It was weird. It didn't sound like any animal there. It was just a strange growl. And I asked him, I looked at him in April. I go, did you guys hear that? And they go, you mean that growl? I said, exactly. And they said, yeah, we did. I go, huh. So I went over there with my red light, and looked around, and has red spotlight, and didn't see anything. So I didn't get out the flare. Just thought, well, maybe it was an animal of some type. So we went out with our, parabolic gear and our flares and everything. Went out for a couple hours and down by the creek, and up by the bluff, and we came back and sat down by the fire pit and decided, well, I think we'll just monitor the campsite and have a few and just hang out tonight. So we were sitting there, and within about a half hour of sitting down by the campfire, just between 10:30 and 11, we heard that growl again. And I thought, what the heck is that? So then I got my flare out, looking around, down the ravine, walked up a little ways. And it does, I don't care how long you've been doing this, it gets you a little unnerved. And I thought, I don't know what that was. So went back by the the fire pit, sat down, relaxed, turned up the music a little bit, just sat around, didn't think nothing of it. And it was nice, and we were having fun. About 2:00 in the morning, we were sitting there still and had the music low, and just chit-chat, and we heard that growl one more time. At that point, I thought, what the heck is this? So we proceeded to look around again. I got my lights out. I could not see anything. Don't know what that was. To this day, I don't know what it was. The strange thing is, it didn't happen it didn't happen the rest of that night. It didn't happen the next week. Came out, you can hear all the wolves the coyotes come out at 10 at night, almost like clockwork. You can hear them howling, and you can hear you can hear the forest. You can hear it come alive again. But for them 2 weeks, it was eerily quiet, which was very strange. And being out in the woods most of my life, I know there's got to be a big predator or something around. if that forest is quiet. I mean, it just didn't make any sense. But that was 3 years ago, and I've never had it happen. We've been out there for 5 years, haven't had that happen since. So something had to be around the campsite. Not sure what it was, but it was definitely something they were visiting that night.
Yeah, absolutely. And it makes sense why you've had so many experiences. You're out there researching and following up on reports and Bigfoot active areas. Would you say Minnesota is more active than California, or do you think California is more active?
You know, when I first moved here in 2000, I always thought California was the hot spot of all Bigfoot activity, just because, you know, it's kind of where it originated, a lot of it from, you know, up in Northern California, you know, Humboldt County and, you know, around the area, Shasta, you know, it's not too far from my hometown. You know, you always hear it. It's just growing up, you've heard reports. Although in the 70s, as a kid, there wasn't a lot of literature or books on the subject. You know, I was into Loch Ness Monster, UFOs. When you're into this type of field, it kind of goes hand in hand. I mean, we even do paranormal investigations with different groups. We'll go out with them, and I love that stuff too. But my forte is Sasquatch or Bigfoot, and hence that's why I call us the Midnight Squatchers, because we're out there after midnight a lot. And that's where I got the name from. I remember one time we were talking with She Squatchers when they started getting started back in 15, 16, and up in Reamer, Minnesota. And they always told me, why don't you start a group? You know, you've been doing this long enough. I go, well, if I ever did, since we're out late at night, it'd probably be the Midnight Squatchers. And that's how that kind of derived. But yeah, we love getting out in the woods. I don't care if it's fishing. Don't do much hunting anymore. A lot of fishing, just a lot of recreational hiking, and just enjoy nature. So, you know, as much as we can get out there, we will. And it kind of goes hand in hand, you know, trout fishing, anything. You know, when you're out in the woods, it's just so peaceful. And when you're doing your research, it's even peaceful until you have a couple of howls or growls or sticks, you know, creaking at night. Then it piques your interest, and also gets your the excitement of it is just amazing. I love it, but it can be unnerving at times too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That creature that you encountered in California, the one that your son pointed out, how big do you estimate that Bigfoot to be?
It was to me, when I got a glimpse of it, which very briefly, it did not look half the size of the one I see. It looked more. I'd say about maybe 7 foot tall, a little smaller. It didn't look. It didn't have the girth. It either it was sick, malnutritioned, or I couldn't tell you. It just didn't have the girth. It wasn't small. Don't get me wrong. It wasn't human size at all. It had, you know, it was big, but it didn't have the girth. The one I seen, it was 9 foot tall. I never want to see that again that close. That was huge. It just still don't make any sense. You know, I always look up at my walls or at a tree, and I just think how big that was. Something I hope to see again in my life, but at a further distance, not that close. That was too much for me. I mean, it keeps me going out in the woods. But yeah, the other one looked smaller, definitely smaller. I don't know if it was a juvenile. It was so quick. I didn't get that. The other one was backlit, so I got a pretty good glimpse of it. This one was going across the road, so it was more of a side view, and which might have been why I didn't see the girth of it. It didn't really look as large as the one I seen originally in 97.
How big do you think the Bigfoot was, the one you encountered in 97?
That one, it had every bit of 9 foot tall, 4 foot wide, maybe even a little over that. It was huge. I mean, I did a cardboard cutout of it, and it still didn't justify it. The one I got looks like a smaller version of it. So I would definitely like to make a cardboard cutout of it. I did a couple drawings. It had shoulders. I mean, just the shoulders is what got me. It just was very wide. It just really broad at the shoulders. Just and the head kind of sunk. And people told me, do you think because you were looking up at an angle at it that maybe the neck looked more inset, where it was, I said it's a possibility. I don't know. When you see something like this, you're not getting a ruler out and tape measure and, hey, go get a camera. You're freaked out. It'll freak anybody out. You're going to sit there and ask too many questions. It's just quick glimpse. You realize what you're seeing, and I'm a little more equipped now with. If I ever ran into one, I'd have more equipment with me, depending on where I'm at. But yeah, it was every bit of 9 foot tall. It was large.
Did it seem like it wanted to hurt you, or did it have bad intentions?
That I couldn't tell you, because it did have a deep guttural grunt and started swaying side to side. The only reason it stopped, I think, because I yelled at it and threw my bottle up at it, which probably wasn't wise. And still to this day, I don't know why I did it. I think I was just freaked out and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. But, and it did sound like I heard brush crushing. I don't know if it was coming down towards me or not. But I think it just wanted me out of there. I don't know if I interrupted. Maybe there was a deer before I came through there. It was hunting. Maybe it just happened to be there and didn't like the fact that I was there at the same time it was. I couldn't tell you exactly, but I think it was showing me a little aggression, like, hey, move on. You don't belong here.
Yeah, that's like a dominance display, like a nervous behavior, or it could have
Correct.
just been trying to move back and forth to allow you to see it and maybe spook you out of the area. But I don't know, they're all plausible theories, but we'll never know why they sway back and forth, why they knock 5 times, or what's going on in their mind. We can only speculate, but one thing, you encountered this creature and they are real.
Oh yeah, 100%. And I'm not here trying to prove it to everybody. I'll relay my story if people want to hear it. We have plenty of friends, and this was back in the day. It wasn't blown out of proportion as it is now. I mean, there's so many podcasts now. There's a lot of people out there that believe in, you'd be ridiculed back in the day. So a lot of people probably didn't come forth with a lot of stories just for the fact of being ridiculed. But yeah, I mean, I'll tell my story who wants to hear it. They can believe it. They don't have to believe it. That's fine. I know what I've seen. I know they're real. And I'm going to continue to try to, do what I do research, and hopefully enlighten people and other researchers and beginning researchers, which I've met, who are really fascinating. I met Brian at the Van Meter event. We do that every year. And he was really interested in this. And I told him, well, get online, get on Facebook. And Brian Nelson, and he, who you'd met, he told me he went down with you. He always calls me. And, I got him into, and that's nice. Get some new people out there, get boots on the ground and do research, and that's what I really like to do, and I hope everybody else that wants to have the passion, get out and research and find more out about what these creatures are, what their habitats are, what they do, no harm, no kill, none of that. Just do plain research to find out, to research what they really are.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's why so many people get into the subject, because they had strange experiences that they just can't explain. And it really triggers something in their brain where they want to seek answers and find out the truth.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There's people out there that's had some hair raising experience. Why they pound on a vehicle or a truck in the middle of the night when you're parked on the side of the road, or I've had people tell me that they've, pounded on the house, and then they come out in their balcony and they'll hide behind a tree and peek at them, and they'll nickname them, Big Red or whatever. And sometimes they'll leave a deer leg for them. I mean, I've heard all kinds of stories. I've got many stories I've heard over the years, even Danny Perez in the area, when I was in Bigfoot Times article, he had asked me, how far was this Aptos, California from your sighting? I said, as a crow flies. I told him about, 18 miles. And he didn't tell me his incident that he thinks he might have seen, but until I told him mine, because he didn't want to, mix up or confuse. You want to hear my story first, but I guess him and Mike Droog from the Felton Bigfoot Museum, which sadly not there no more, was out in Aptos, where my cousin had 110 acres in that area at one time, and they had a whole series of different sounds went out. They went to investigate a structure, which we found many in different places around here. And it just turned out to be an apple. It turned out to be a pile of, brush. Someone said, hey, I think there's a Bigfoot structure. But they heard some weird sounds, metallic, he told me, and it was just a whole cacophony of sounds. And he said it was just amazing, but it was no animal. It was something strange. Something strange that they couldn't really put a thumb to. So, and I know Mike Droog, when I've talked to him over the years, he had shown me a couple of footprints from that area, Santa Cruz Mountains. He even showed me an April video one day of a jawbone, a picture of a jawbone and a video of a baby squatch. You could see it. It was kind of running under the trees. And it kind of looked like Chaka from back in the 70s of not the lost to me, but it was running. And it's faint. You could see it. And they claimed that when they came up upon this creature, it was eating an apple. And then when they went low, because it's hard to see under apple, because I grew up around there, and you get low and you can see kind of underneath it, from a long ways, hundreds of feet when you lean down. And this thing was sitting there eating the ground apples, and then it took off running. But I did get he showed me a print that it was kind of odd, and it wasn't real big, wasn't real large, maybe I'd say 9 to 10 inches, but it was an interesting print. And I'm sure, I've seen other prints that they've gotten from the area. But there's so many reports from that, California period, but Santa Cruz Mountains, even of two hikers two lady hikers was up there hiking, and they happened to Henry Cowell State Park up there, and they happened to be sitting on a stump, and they took a break and was eating an apple, and they seen one of these they assumed it was juvenile, small, 5.5, 6 foot tall, and it was peeking around a bush, and all of a sudden they were eating an apple, and it acted like it was eating an apple, kind of mocking them, just kind of looking at them. It did that for a little bit, and then it just disappeared in the forest. Very curious, curious creatures. But again, there's so many reports in that area that, I wish I could get back out to that area, but I don't. I haven't been out to California since 18. I should get out there a lot more. A lot of my relatives have passed. There's only a few of my friends there. It's just different. I want to go back out there, and I should, but maybe this year or next year I'll get back out and do a little investigation in that area.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you ever experienced anything strange out in the woods as far as like supernatural activity tied in with the cryptid creatures?
I don't know if it's tied in, but we have seen orbs. I've seen them in California on one occasion. Down in Spring Valley, we had one night, we were sitting there, and it was weird because it was overcast, so the clouds were kind of low. And I don't know if you would call these orbs. They were in the clouds, but it was below the cloud line. And there was 3 lights, and they were kind of visibly swirling kind of around, and they would go left, right, back and forth. They would kind of do a pattern. And we were trying to figure out, it kind of looked like a spotlight you'd see from like a store having a sale, but it wasn't no beam coming up. It was just that dot in the clouds. So we got in my little Scion I have, and we were going to drive down to the creek and see if we can get close to them. As we drove, it seemed like they moved away from us, which was very odd. And then they just disappeared all in all. And this happened probably about 2 or 3 minutes. And it was weird because you could see them right between the tree line, because you really can't see the sky except for that little, tree line opening as you go down to the creek there. So what that was, I don't know. It's strange.
Yeah, that is strange. And what's your favorite piece of equipment to research Bigfoot with?
I like audio, but the FLIR is the one I lean to. I use a psionics night vision, which I really like. It's old school. You can see them a lot on like Skinwalker Ranch. I like to look up the sky sometimes. And that one really is clear. It's only 1080, but they're really nice scopes. I use a nice FLIR scope too with AI technology. That one's pretty cool. I know I've watched, I did a little research behind you. I know you have a drone. I fly a DJI myself. I like drones to scope out an area. Then I'm going to research. I don't have a FLIR drone, so no night vision. I do have the DJI 3 that has somewhat of night vision. I mean, you can adjust the camera on it or video, so you can get it ain't FLIR, but it brightens up the landscape. But I do like to use drones for surveillance, just to look in an area before I get into an area, if I'm allowed to fly over there. But the FLIR would be my FLIR, and my psionics is one of my favorite things to use when I'm out in the woods.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a good piece of equipment to have. And it kind of gives you, I don't know, like a feeling of safety because you can see at nighttime.
Yeah, because that's something, when I went down to the creek that one night to retrieve that camera, excuse me, I'm having a real hard time with my voice here. When I went to retrieve the camera, when I thought I had something following me out, I didn't have nothing but my phone. So I wish I would have had a FLIR. So sometimes, we come equipped, but yet we don't think about bringing stuff. At times, I think we've all made that mistake. I don't care how long you've been in this. Sometimes you just say, God, I wish I would have brought that, or I wish I would have grabbed this, and it happens.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like you said earlier in the podcast, when you heard that vocalization, you didn't have an audio recorder on you, and it was one of the best calls you've ever heard in your life.
Yeah, and it was the early 90s, so, infantry of cell phones and what have you. I mean, I remember back in the 80s, mid-80s, my boss, I worked for a glass shop, he had one of them car phones that looked like something out of Vietnam where you got a radio in a bomb raid or something, we've came a long ways with technology. Back in the 90s, I really didn't have anything like that. And the recorders we had were tape recorders with a microphone. So it's a little harder to get audio. Nowadays, it's at our disposal. We got everything on our phones. Even my Galaxy here, S25, has adaptive sound. So if you're quiet, it'll zoom in on sound distance away. It'll zoom in as much as it can to amplify the sound. So it's kind of nice.
Yeah, that is really cool. I have a 21 Ultra. I'm going to have to upgrade sometime soon.
Yeah, how I caught that audio of the howl was, I go quiet because I'd heard it starting. And if everybody's quiet, the phone on this S25 will adapt as far as it can to the distance of that sound, which is pretty nice. I mean, if you're out 2 miles, no, it ain't going to work. But, 400 or 500 feet, it will bring it in pretty clear, which is amazing.
Yeah, that is really neat. I'll have to check it out. And the AI features on the Samsungs are just amazing. The zoom capabilities on the camera is really neat as well.
Yeah, and like I said, I love my Sonics. It's a little older piece of equipment, but man, if you look up in the sky and you want to just look up, you won't believe what you see up there. I mean, I see stuff that I would never see with the naked eye, and it's amazing what's it may not be Sasquatch related because we don't see bat squatch, but it is an amazing piece of equipment. It works really good. I've used it out in the field squatching, and some of the people like it better than some of their equipment they got, so I kind of go back and forth. What I'd like to do eventually is get a better parabolic ear. I know you've got a nice one. I've seen it. I just use the cheapos, and they work decent. I mean, you can amplify the sound pretty well. You're not out much. It's kind of like I fly the Atom. I really like the Atom 2. It's got AI technology. And they're a little cheaper drone, but they work really well. And you're not out much. You can get the basic version with 3 batteries for like $200 refurbished, and they work really well with their 4K gimbals. The new one I just purchased with the Atom 2, it's got the 8K feature, but it's also got AI. So if you're going into a bush or a tree line and come out, it'll pick back up on you when you're doing the follow me mode, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, that is really cool. And I'll have to look into that. I mean, that just sounds like a really nice piece of gear.
Yeah, there's you can get into a lot of money and, or I say a lot of coin, researching and adding equipment. But it's it doesn't matter. You don't have to spend millions of dollars. There's ways to get out there and experience just as much as everybody else does, without breaking the bank. I mean, especially if you're in the infantry of doing Bigfoot research. And if anybody's ever, needs any advice or wants a, little technology advice on some of the equipment, they can always reach out to me. But yeah, we love to be out in the woods. I know you're in Missouri. Hopefully we can chit chat, and get together sometime. I know Brian had talked to me. He had talked to you about me, and I told him, yeah, one of these times we'll have to get down there and all get together and go do some research. I'm planning to go in his area this year. We do the Van Meter event in September every year. We do the Bigfoot Days up in Reamer, Minnesota in July. And I want to be, I know Barnaby Jones well. I'm going to be up at his event in May, and then we'll be out researching the Kettle Moraine in June. But we're kind of building up the calendar, so we got a little bit of things to do over the next several months.
Yeah, it sounds like you're a busy guy, and if you're ever out in the Ozarks, definitely let me know. Brian's a good guy, and yeah, I think you'll have some good luck in his area from what it sounds like.
Yeah, and if, excuse me, if you're ever down, in Minnesota and you want to, I know you came up here once to Northern, but if you want to check out the Spring Valley area, we got access, and it's private land. There's nobody else out there, so there's no contamination. You wouldn't have, to worry about anybody else being out there. And there's a lot of caves out around that vicinity. It is a driftless area. We got access also to La Crosse, almost equal, land, almost 500 acres, and that's very mountainous, overlooking the Mississippi. And we got trail cams up there too. Not cheap to run. You get into a lot of equipment and throw up cams everywhere, $10-20 a piece. It can run into almost like a cell phone bill. It's not cheap. But if you ever want to look around and come down this area and make a weekend of it, just let us know and we can show you around a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. And I will put your name down on my list of people to meet up with in the future. And yeah, Minnesota was beautiful, minus Minneapolis. There's too much traffic there. it was too overwhelming for me.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I come from California, and traffic, when I moved here, I thought I'd make it here 2 years. My little town is 550 people. When I moved here, I thought it was Mayberry, and I got used to it. I had a house there that I sold and paid off this one. I only work part-time. And it's kind of nice. You're not in that hustle and bustle. You can relax and take it easy. If I ever want to go visit, I can, but I can still drive like California. I just don't care to be out there anymore, driving in traffic. Visiting a couple weeks, I'm good. And then back to the peaceful life,
Yeah, absolutely. And hopefully the new conflict in the Middle East doesn't raise up the gas prices too much. That way we can get out there and go Sasquatching.
Oh yeah, for sure, Miguel. That's 100%. I know you just joined my group. I appreciate it. And if you have any thing you want to share there, feel free. And I'll be paying attention more to a lot of your posts. I know Brian had mentioned. I've been researching. I really didn't know of you till just recently, so it's kind of nice to meet a fellow Squatcher. And again, we'll have to get together and hook up one of these times and get boots on the ground and get out there and spend a couple days doing what we love to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I look forward to it. And I appreciate you for making the report on Sasquatch Theory. It really means a lot. And I hope we can do research in the future.
Sounds good, Miguel. Thanks for having us on. And maybe next time around, we'll do another podcast with you. We can have my lady's story from Georgia and several more that I've got. I've got so many that they're all going to be in a book someday. I'm just working on it.
Okay. Yeah, keep in touch because I definitely want to hear your wife's story from Georgia and the other experiences that you've had.
Sounds good, Miguel.
All right.
Thanks for having us on.
Yep. You enjoy your outing today in Minnesota and you be safe out there, okay?
Okay, thanks, Miguel.
Yep.
Nice talking with you.
Thank you. You take care. Bye.
Yep, bye.
John's experiences span decades and two completely different regions of the country, yet many of the details remain strikingly similar. From the Redwood forest of California to the quiet countryside of Minnesota, the same patterns keep showing up: rock throwing, wood knocks, strange vocalizations, and the unmistakable feeling of being watched in places where no one else should be at. There is a pattern here, and the same activity seems to be taking place all over the world. Whether these encounters involve a hidden primate, something more mysterious, or a phenomenon we still don't fully understand, stories like John's continue to surface from people who have spent their lives in the outdoors. John has taken the time to document reports from others and continues researching the subject, hoping that one day these encounters will make more sense. If you've had a strange experience in the woods or believe you may have encountered something unexplained, feel free to reach out sometime at sasquatchtheory@outlook.com. If you really enjoy the channel and you want more of it, you can join the membership today for additional content. I did leave an Amazon wish list in the description if you guys want to help support the channel. There's a PayPal donate link. There's the thanks button, merchandise, and you guys get the gist of it. But yeah, I'm trying to get more funds so I can buy more research equipment. But anyways, I appreciate every single one of you. Thank you all for listening and supporting the channel, and until the next one, you guys be safe out in the woods.